I'm a third-year student in the design school, and over the past 3 years, like the course is really project-oriented. So just because of the fact that it is study, you don't get like years to make a project. So just iterating on games really quickly and making games really quickly. There's a couple of really handy things I've learned that I'm just gonna like go through. And maybe you'll learn something, maybe you won't. Word of warning. Do know your situation, like do know whether this will be useful to you or not, because it could be the worst advice you've ever heard. Cool. So at the moment I'm working on a game called Buto. That's where like a lot of these tools actually came from, because the way that we're developing this game is kind of like we're making the most of the fact that we are in education and we can really screw up. So we are screwing up a lot and iterating on the game a lot really quickly. So firstly, know your purpose. Like, are you trying to like properly learn something from this? Like, are you doing like life drawing, for example? Like, you don't want to skimp on your anatomy when you're doing life drawing. Like, you don't want to use base mesh. But if you're trying to get things ready, it might actually pay to just kind of like, reuse things, just cheat, use as much reference, use as many things that you can like draw from to just kind of speed up your workflow. Okay, quick tip one. This has saved my life many times. It's Jamie Roller's Gamut Maker. If you're struggling with color schemes or anything like that, this is so useful. It allows you to limit your color palette to certain points on the color wheel, and got some fun sliders. It's really fun to use and really, really cool. So also repurpose things. I mean, I've already mentioned that, but like, yeah, basically, don't ask if you should. Don't ask if you should. Ask if you can. Like, if you can reuse something that you've already done on a different project or on that project, just do it. Like, we're using for Buto, we're using Fungus, which is a plugin for Unity that is made for visual novels. We started off using it just for the dialogue, and it's kind of evolved to the point now where Fungus is our level manager, our game manager, event manager. Like, it just kind of like all glues in there. It's probably not the most beautiful way of working with it, but it works, and it works really well for us, and it lets us just change things really quickly and mock things up really quickly as well. Another tip: put your time into spreadsheets. I'm putting a lot of time into spreadsheets. And I mean this literally as well, like record your hours and just keep your tasks so that you know like how long things take you, where you can shave time off. Like, I realized doing this that I spent way too much time doing like, I spent way too much time just like on some certain things, like, just like opening up a texture, doing it, like constantly working on the same thing over and over again when there's like other more important things to do. So I guess like, yeah, prioritize, keep track of your hours, and it just comes in really, really handy just to know how long you spend doing things. This here is my favorite thing. It's cross-learning. Basically, it's a concept of like you applying knowledge that you've gotten from somewhere else on the thing that you're doing now. So like the question is like, what does this remind me of and why? So to give you an example, I used to work as a painter and plasterer, so like, painting houses, and I really hated that job. But now making games, like a lot of the things that I've learned like, about workflow, about just how to get things done, I'm applying it now. And it goes the other way as well. Like you can use things you've already learned, and you can also look into like what you can sort of branch out into. So, if an opportunity comes up and it might not be directly related to what you like to do and what you're into, just think of like, is there anything that I want to do that reminds me of this thing? And like, is there anything I can draw from that and learn from it? Another quick little tip. X normal has really cool Photoshop filters. So if you're doing 3D and you are doing like baking normal maps and stuff like that, it can convert height maps to like literally everything. So you can just take your texture, do a little bit of line art, paint over it, convert it to a normal map, merge it down, and you've got some really cool detail done really, really quickly. Alright, there's another really cool thing, like another like mental tool. It's called first principles thinking. It's pretty old. Archimedes came up with it. Elon Musk does it, and I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk. I think he does pretty cool things. So the idea here is that you get to the bottom of the problem and just imagine that you kind of forget all the ways the problem has been solved in the past and you try to solve it just from like the very, very base level. So to give you an example on Router, it started off as like a pixel art RPG with cart-based combat, which is quite different from what you've seen there. But the combat was in the game for quite a while, and we were really struggling making it engaging and making it interesting, and like most importantly, making it fit with the game and the themes of the game that have kind of evolved from that. And we tried all sorts of things, and then we kind of eventually just took a step back and kind of like looked at the game in a holistic way and realized that maybe having combat in a game that is about emotions and about exploration and a story, it kind of detracts from the overall view. So we decided to cut it in the end, and I think like just getting to the bottom of that, just to the fact that like the interaction was bad, not just purely because it was lacking design work, but also because it just didn't really work with the surrounding stuff. Okay, this is something, a little quick tip. Trees are incredibly difficult. If you're a 3D artist, you would probably run into that. Using curves in your 3D software and creating a particle system, a hair system, that kind of grows leaves out of that will save you so many hours of like trying to manually put leaves on things. So if you're interested in that, just like come find me. I'm pretty hard to miss. And I'll happily tell you all about this because I'm really, really excited about that. Cool. Another thing, don't reinvent the wheel. So like if you can use things that other people have done, obviously like within the range of your project, just do it. Like we could have written our own dialogue system, or we could have used fungus, and it saved us probably hundreds of hours. So yeah, basically just don't be afraid of kind of drawing on asking for help, basically, more or less, and just kind of going out there and seeing what else people have done. Another tip, I've made it this far without like preaching about Blender, but it has a really, really cool terrain tool that you don't need to know anything about the software. You can basically just fire up, run it, and so if you need like quick height maps, if you're doing like levels and stuff like that, so useful. Another place where you can get those from would be a website called Terrain Party. So yeah, if you're into environment design, height maps and stuff like that, and just need like really quick ones that you can iterate on, that's really cool. And yeah, finally, just like sometimes you just need to kill your ideas. Like sometimes it just doesn't really work, and or like things that you started, especially when you're working in 3D, like you might have made a mistake really early on in your model and you overlooked it, and now you've got it rigged and ready to animate, and you can't really. You would spend more time trying to fix it than it would be to just kind of quickly redo it. So yeah, it's just like a really important skill to just know when to let something go and to just kind of move on with your life. So yeah, hope I didn't breeze through it too quickly, but yeah, if you've got any questions.
I suppose if you have time, could you go through the parent tree system?
Tree, okay, yeah, happily. So the way these are done is that you've got you start with a curve, a Bezier curve or something like that, and you kind of block out your main chunk with that, and then you can convert that curve into a mesh. And once you've got that mesh, you can go in and kind of tweak it, make the base a bit thicker, make the top thinner, kind of get the shape out of the tree out of that initial block out. And you can do that same thing for branches as well. So as long as it doesn't matter that they're intersecting, you can just make additional curves for branches, convert them into mesh, and then use that. And then what I do is I create spheres, kind of warp them to block out where the leaves are going to be. Based on that, I then create a simple plane that has a texture of a leaf or a couple of leaves or a little branch or something like that on that. And then I assign those spheres that I use to block out where the leaves are as an emitter for the hair particle. And then you assign the plane as the hair particle and basically just grow your leaves naturally out of the tree, and you can put physics on it, make it drip nicely, or just play with it until it looks real nice. Anything else?
What have you discovered was the biggest, using a spreadsheet, what have been the biggest time cycle surprise to you?
I spend dozens of hours just kind of like tweaking little things in environments that probably no one will ever see. Where I went through it yesterday and I realized that I've put like, I think 20 hours into a little corner of a map that's like just a tiny little forest, and I just made it look real nice, a little diorama, and then I realized that it's not actually accessible in the game.
How did it feel to change your game from going in one direction for so long and then changing it up? Because you thought it doesn't.
At first, it was a bit painful because you've put all this work in there and you don't really want to waste it, and you kind of like you've got this set idea in your mind of what you want to do and what you wanted to do, and kind of like having to take it into a new direction out of necessity. Like the first time was real hard, but then after a while you kind of just become detached, as if it's kind of like you're doing a lot of drawing and you just crumble up the drawing after you've done and throw it in the bin. Whether or not it was good or anything, it's just kind of like an exercise to kind of detach you from that. And I feel like that's kind of what happened iterating on the game as well. So like at first we were really hesitant about changing major things, and now we've kind of gotten to the point where it's like, chuck it. Like, change this, change this, change this. Like, how can we reuse things that we've already done to like support this and speed it up? But it would be a bigger waste of time to carry on with like broken things rather than.
So like, when did you decide that what you're doing, like this change of direction, is a good choice?
It was kind of a gradual process. So while you're making it, you've got your rose-tinted goggles on it, and you're really enjoying it, and it's fun for you to play because you know exactly how it works and all the quirks and stuff, and you're kind of like imagining what it can be. And then you get other people on a playtesting, and they sit down and they look at it and they're like, I don't know what to do. And then 10 minutes later, after you've tried to explain it to them, they're still like, I don't know what to do. And that's kind of like the point where you realize that you've probably got a pretty big UX problem. And since you're going to be like overworking that anyway, you may as well look at like, how can you get closer to the overall feel of what you're trying to get to, rather than like just making this one thing good in isolation that then doesn't connect back to anything. Yep.
What's your methodology in keeping track of your time?
So I use kind of like something a little bit derived of Pomodoro. So for those that don't know the Pomodoro Technique, so you set a timer for like 15 minutes. You just focus exclusively during that time, and then timer goes off, and take a 5-minute break, and you just keep going. And so I kind of started on that, but I found that the 15 minutes thing was just a bit too rigid for me, because sometimes, sometimes you're in flow and you want to go a little bit longer, or sometimes it's just not working and you break earlier. So what I ended up doing is I put my starting time into the top of the spreadsheet. yeah, I put my starting time into like that little bit there, and then I put the finish time into the bit next to it. And like as soon as I put down the starting time, I don't do anything else other than the task that I've decided. And either I finish the task or I just take a break, and then I just put the end time in there and it spits out hours, and then I put the hours in there. So it's kind of like either I finish the task or I take a break, and then there's your 5-minute break, and you can go back to it. Okay, another quick tip for the spreadsheet itself. When you're like building the tasks, I found that making smaller tasks, aiming for like things that are probably going to take you about half an hour to 2 hours, are so much better than being like, make a level, make it a game. Like those tasks are impossible to track and they don't really tell you anything. So like, if you can really breadcrumb that up and make it really small, it becomes incredibly satisfying to just check those off as well. So you're like, done that, and you're like, oh my god, I've done so much today, and yeah, you haven't really done that much, but at least you feel good about yourself. Yeah.
Are you quite disciplined with the time you allocate, meaning time in the day to focus on certain tasks? Like, let's say in the morning, you do 3D modeling and then maybe certain scripting tasks you set it without them, or do you ever just mix it up and just whatever you're in the mood for?
I used to do what I was in the mood for, but it kind of ended up being the thing that you're just kind of working on the things that you like and everything else gets neglected. So what I've started doing lately is I've cut out these little cards and I've put like little categories on everything. So there's like, modeling, texturing, web design, scripting, all sorts of stuff. And in the morning, I just shuffle the cards and then I just draw one, and whatever's on there, I start working on until something's done on that, and then I draw the next one.
Do you ever get sidetracked to doing one task?
Yes, sometimes. But,
so like if trying to do texturing first and then you sidetrack to do some other tasks, and then how would you like time this kind of thing?
Sometimes I kind of just cheat and I like put the total hours in there and just divide them by 2 and put them on both tasks. But yeah, I think it's just like that's the difficult part, because you kind of need to be disciplined enough to just be like, okay, well, I'm just going to take that second to just put it down, finish that task now, chuck in a new time, and then just start working on something else.
Was your experience writing the dialogue, like for the game, a larger time set than you expected, or was it more difficult than you initially thought it would be?
So for writing the dialogue, it was actually a mix of, it was a lot harder and also a lot easier. So like just the starting is really, really hard. So when we first started writing the dialogue, I really underestimated how long it would take. I put down 2 hours and it took 5 for like a little paragraph, something like that. But and then that kind of informs your next estimate. So like when we went over and improved on it, overhauled it, I put down 5 hours and it took 2. So I think it just kind of comes with practice as well, just kind of being able to estimate how long things are going to take depending on how much of it you have already done.